What a beast that is. Because they've got that onboard storage, you're not going to lose one. Oh, that's chunky. The whole thing's cooler than I thought it was going to be. Hey guys, we just started stocking the Real Avid gear and we've decided to give our mounting bench a bit of a upgrade with a bunch of the gear from Real Avid. So we're going to start off, this has been fantastic and still will be our backup. We're going to start off replacing our gun stand. So this is the Master Gun workstation. It is big and huge. So let's grab this out. Now there's a whole stack of features with this one and lots of information on the back, but we'll get it out and we'll start going through bit by bit as we do. So instructions, we have the mounting feet, the soft jaws, they have nice and foamy, those ones. All right, that's everything from there. And then we've got the stand itself. Is this gonna come out easily? Sort of. Okay, that's the bottom piece. All right, grab that out. All sorts of bits here, nothing under there. All right, that looks like that is everything we need for this setup. So presumably these feet will go on the bottom here somewhere. All right, they are height adjustable. So you can set this up easy for any sort of setup. So you'll see here that the red side is threaded and that's how you screw that in, and this is obviously where the black stem goes. I'll get through that. I'll get them all aligned on the underside and we'll flip it over and set them up to be level. All right, let's flip that over. Somewhere we have a level here. There it is. Put one there and we'll put one there. These are actually quite high. Let's get this down a long way. Okay, that's sitting pretty well. So the feet on this have holes in there that you could actually mount to a bench if you're going to put it into a permanent spot. This thing will move around a little bit for us, depending on the firearms that we are working on. So we will leave that unmounted, but you can get that level, which is a really nice feature. So these little sections here actually have a little magnetic icon, and that means that they are going to stick. So if you've got screws or anything you're working with like that, those little areas there, you can throw them in there and they're going to stay and not come out, which is very beneficial. So this part here will go in at the front, so let's line that up correctly. So this has two buttons on it. The one on the front here will allow us to adjust up and down on the part that the front of the stock will fit into, and then this button here will allow us to run this down to wherever along these points makes the most sense depending on the gun that we're using. This also is on track and that will run accordingly. Now if we grab the other part of this, this is the rear support. Pretty sure that will just drop straight in like that. Perfect. Although I have a feeling I put it on backwards. I have put it on backwards, but that may actually end up being intentional. I'll put it on the way that they've suggested first so that this is hanging off the back, but we might actually want it the other way for our setup. These two nice foam padded, yeah, they've got great protection on them. They drop in here and here. So this will go in here. And then that's where we actually need to screw those in. So it does come with a couple of screws. Comes with the correct tool as well. Let's use the little magnetic spots there to throw the extras. And so we'll run this through here. So just two screws and washers on those parts there. And then the second one in here as well. That's it, fully assembled now, ready to roll. So that's how you would clamp up on the rear of a rifle. You can squeeze that and it will clamp up so it's nice and tight. The thing I like about that is you can do that at sort of whatever height you need. So you see the yoke here, the front of the firearm can be supported by that, and we can adjust that height to wherever we need to. We'll probably just leave that relatively middle ground, but the real benefit is back here as we push this one here and that'll allow us to slide. But once we get close, we can basically clamp it up, get this sort of level, and clamp it up wherever we need to, or if that's slightly off and we need to come up a little bit higher, we can do that, and that's not gonna do any damage to the rear of the gun, which is really fantastic. That's the Master Gun workstation. Now, a few of the other features on here that we haven't covered yet is this knob here, which allows you to adjust the angle of the firearm. So if we twist that, you can actually see that it will rotate it accordingly. And it gives you about 3 degrees on either side. So if you do need to get that gun level while you're mounting the scope, you can do so using this. Now it's got a number of little spots for tools and cleaning fluid or anything else you might be needing those for. This part here you can use for general storage, put a torque wrench or something in there. These little clips here will be for like screwdrivers and just hold everything down tightly. Plus, this is a cool little feature. You've got your cleaning rod, you want to store it somewhere. put both of them in there. Obviously they work better with the Real Avid ones, but they do work with pretty much any. So you can store a couple of cleaning rods on board as well. Although I would recommend doing it the other way because that's the way you're going to clean it. Like so. Now if you do find that this little part here is getting in the way, you can unclip that and remove it as well. It's a nice little optional extra on there. The reason this does exist is because there are accessories you can put in there, but we'll cover that in another video. Now for our use, I think that the rear of this would be better off if it was around the other way. And I think that we can do that without really any problems. The only downside of that is it moves this adjustment for the angle around to this side, but I think we can live with that. That works way better. So that is going to be our main workstation for mounting optics. But we do have this little secondary one, which is, you know, space saver, be able to put that away, and these don't really fit all that well on there. They sort of fit, but they hang over the edge a bit. So we've chosen another Real Avid product. This one here, the gun vise master grade. We're gonna mount that one on there. Now obviously this is a vise, but it can be used for a number of different purposes and has the same leveling system that does as well. So we think this would be a good backup option to be able to save some space, but have a second way of doing it. So let's get it out. We're gonna open up from here and we'll grab it out. Got stuck at the top, there we are. We'll take out of here. We got something in that one. That one's good. Nothing in there we need. No. All right, let's grab that. Oh, that's chunky. So we have the vise itself. Now this will mount onto a bench accordingly, which we will do on our second bench over here. So this pin here will allow you to go between two different locking positions, either vertically or horizontally. And you can also throw in here if you want to just use it in whatever position you lock down to. You lock it down using this mechanism here, so you wind it up, get it nice and tight, and then close it off like that. It will stay wherever you have set it. Really useful like that. Up into the clamp itself, there is a extra cable tie. Let's grab that off. And so now we can clamp up the device like so, and that will clamp extremely tight. So it is a very strong vise. It'll take up to 100 foot-pounds of torque on that. Now this will come with reversible stainless steel jaws that you can use in their setup like that, or you can undo them and turn them around the other way and give you a full flat mounting option. But they also come with jaw sleeves. The ones that come in the box have two sides to them. They are either a plastic side, which I guess has points for you to grip and mount anything into, like so, or if you want to run them just as foam, sort of like on the other gun mount that we use here, they have a soft foam in there, which is really good to protect your firearm from any damage. You also will have these quick pins, which will lock those in securely, but it's easy to grab out and change over if you want to go the other side or go the other way. Now we'll come with 3 bolts to mount with. They do have this square lug underneath the head of them, so they actually will align and keep this locked down really, really well. We're gonna get this mounted up on that bench as a secondary option for mounting scopes and clamping down on handguns. So now we have it mounted up on the side of our bench here, and we'll be able to pull this one out and you'll see we can get it into this position here. And once we tweak that a little bit, we can lock it off there if we need it that way for some reason, or grab it up and be able to lock it back in that position there as well. If we grab one of those stocks over there, we'll be able to put it in here. Perfect. So throw those locking pins back in. Now that we've got it on the foam side, and we'll be able to set that one up there, clamp it on down. Now, if we're finding as we're mounting this that we need to adjust the angle of it slightly, we can do so with this mechanism here, where we have about 3 degrees of play on either side to be able to get that around, make sure it's straight. Now we can get this clamped down extremely tightly, which we don't need to do for what we're doing here, but that is really good. Or if you are using a handgun, obviously very suitable for that as well. Now, of course, you can put this into the free play mode, where we drop it into the unlock position and twist this around to whatever position we need it to be in. You can use this part, do that up to wherever it is nearly tight, and then pull that down to lock that in, and that is going nowhere. One of the little upgrade for this we have is some different sleeves for the jaws. So these ones here are the grip ones. There is also ones for barrels, though we don't work on guns in that way here, so we don't have a use for that. But these ones here are an alternative option where you have a sort of rubberized grip, which is a nicer feeling one than the plastic. And you either have the same sort of pattern like you do on there, so you can lock stuff in different ways, or something very generic. And these work the exact same way that these do. Grab the pins out, pull that off, drop this into position, pins back in, and we are good to go. Now these sleeves that come with it also on the top point are the same dimensions as Arca. So if you line it up correctly, you can actually use the clamp on an Arca rail that's already on your rifle to lock it in, like so. Hiding under here is also a base piece, which when you put anything down through here, you can use to sort of bottom out against it, and it also protects everything underneath. There is an accessory kit that we're going to be able to use between these two devices. Let me grab that. This is the Real Avid accessory pack for using either the workstations or the vise. It's got 3 devices. One clamps onto your phone, one is a light, and one is magnifying glass. And they're designed to either interact with these other mounts that we have, or they come with their own series of mounting systems as well. So let's grab it all out. So we have 1, 2, 3. They are far stronger than I thought they were going to be. You have the base that comes with it. There's this one here, and you can mount that onto your bench wherever you like. And then each of these here will have this clip here. And this clip is designed to go in this mounting point here and then lock in. And so you can do that off this base, and there are mounting points on a number of the Real Avid pieces of equipment as well. So we have a phone mount here, which, let's grab a phone out and see if it's going to work for us. Pretty stock standard, does the job, doesn't move around too much. And that is, you can articulate that whichever direction you need to, and then clamp it up from there. I thought these were going to be, looking at the package, thought it was going to be sort of relatively cheap and nasty, but they are solid. Josh, you're a camera guy dealing with mounts and stuff all the time. Grab this. Is that better than you thought it was going to be?
That's way better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
I've seen that mount on full drives.
That is absolutely solid. Anyway, that's the first one with the phone in it. This one here with the magnifying glass, that again is bigger magnifying glass than I first thought when I originally ordered it. So we have the main magnifying glass, and then also a super zoom one there as well. That's obviously the same mount. And then the light here is a LED light. Press that there. Yep, that looks, we've got plenty of lighting around at the moment, and we have sort of standard brightness, a really bright one, and then a very directional light as well. And you can charge this one up, and you can grab the light out completely as well. Now that looks like it's magnetic in the base, which is how it sticks into there, but I suspect you could probably mount that onto any magnetic base. The whole thing's cooler than I thought it was going to be. All right, now I said that these would mount onto this as well. So let's bring that back into frame. This is a Real Avid Master Gun workstation if you haven't seen our other video on it. So this can mount here. So if you're working on one, you could get some extra light. If you were working on mounting the Picatinny rail or anything along those lines, you can put some light exactly wherever you needed it. And then if something was a little bit more complex and you were trying to see some more detail of what was going on, plug this one in, and that is a lot better. Okay, you just got to find how it naturally wants to sit and then adjust that accordingly. And then your third part with your phone, if you're watching a YouTube tutorial, for example, you bring this one around here, plug that in, and you could have your YouTube video going, telling you what you are meant to be doing as you're doing it. Now, when I first saw this, I thought it was a little bit gimmicky, but seeing, I guess, the quality of these, actually, it's far better than I thought it would, and I can certainly see us here using this and this. The phone, I can see there would be benefits for it. I don't know if we'd use it in the shop a whole lot, but yeah, really nice. And of course, if you are needing to slide that out of the way, you can do so on that. Now we could mount this base over here and be able to use those arms anywhere on this unit, but we could also take this piece out, and actually if we take this apart, we can mount this onto here, and that will fit nicely as part of the vise and give us mounting points built into the vise. I think we're going to end up doing that. So they do a surface mount, so this one here, which you can screw down to a given area, and that will give you 3 different mounts for the 3 different items. There is a C-clamp option, if that suits your bench, where you can put 2 different devices in onto that, another good option. And then you do also have another magnetic option as well. So if you've got a metal bench top, you can put that one down, that will give you 1 mounting position for one of these tools. So you've got lots of options, and of course they're really easy to get rid of and take away like so and throw into a drawer and leave that one out there so you can keep watching YouTube, right? So I think these tools are a good addition to our collection here in the shop. The good thing is these will actually fit in the drawers that we have down here, so we can put them away nice and easy and grab them out whenever needed. Don't think we'll need to use those, but it's good that they do have a number of options of mounting. Now I need to move these across because I need to make some room for our next item we're going to add into the workbench here. The next addition to the bench is the Master Sight Pusher. It's a tool designed to be able to adjust sights specifically on handguns. So this is going to be part of our collection, so let's get it out of the box and have a look. What a beast that is. So this unit has a lot of adjustment because it's designed to be able to work with quite a number of firearms. And so you have 4 options down the bottom to be able to lock up. Now there are different connections you can put in depending on the shape and design that you need to clamp up against your gun. You also around the back here have the height adjustment, so you can adjust how high that is sitting. So you get it suited particularly to your setup, get your handgun in through there, and then this part here is what will do the adjustment as you screw that through and push the side out or left to right, whichever way it needs to go. You have a range of little tools here to be able to customize the fit of this to your specific handgun. A super useful tool if you're adjusting your front or rear sights, or if you are installing red dots, which is what we often do here. Now there is another version of this which is designated specifically for Glocks, which is obviously a smaller unit. We are going to put one of these on the bench as well. Now because it's very specific as to which handguns it will suit, you don't need all the adjustment that you have in here. But if you are just running Glocks, that would be a good consideration to make. So these ones are going to go into the drawers on this bench for when we are fitting up any handgun sights, and we shall grab our newest torque wrench out in a moment. Torque wrenches are one of the most common things we use here, especially mounting optics, and we have the new one here from Real Avid. So let's open this one up and I'll show you why we're excited about getting this one. So this is the unit itself, and I like this little feature here, but we'll get onto that in a moment. It comes also with a box for it to go into. So you have the unit there and you've got the adjustment on the front. It's pretty similar to standard torque wrenches. And as you go around, it will click in and keep winding that torque up from 10 up to 70. You will see the number here correlates as well. So we would currently be, we're just past 50 and on 2, so we'd currently be on 52. We're around to 0 and we'll be down to 60. One good feature if you are doing this up, this top bit does spin, so if you're putting a bit of tension on it like so, it will still allow it to rotate. Now you would have noticed this extra handle, sometimes things just get really, really tight and you do actually need that cross handle there, but it does come out. It's just a normal hex head there, so normally you wouldn't need that, so you can leave that in the box, but occasionally you do find that that little bit of extra grip, especially if you're dealing with Loctite or something on those lines, can be very, very helpful. And we also have 12 of the standard bits in there, which is pretty common. Throw that in there, and you have yourself a good little kit to be able to throw in with the guns. Now this kit does also come with a larger option where you would get all the bits as well. Now this kit will come with 83 different bits as well as a standard screwdriver attachment that you can use that for. So if you are looking for something a little bit more expanded with lots of features, that is a good way to get the exact same torque wrench in a larger kit. So we're not going to leave this one in the bag because it is going to live here. I'm going to throw that in one of the accessories trays here as well. And we have so many bits. We'll just leave that in there and put that elsewhere for the time being. Now, the next part with mounting scopes. This is the Real Avid Level Right Pro Kit. It contains a number of things of getting your scope nice and level. Let's grab it out. So in the kit, we have instructions. We have this little chart here, which is what you're actually going to use to level against. A little tripod for that, we may or may not use. And then in here, we actually have all the other parts. And there's a bit to put together with this one. So this is the main part here, and we'll put that on there, and that will give us a light to look through the scope and actually project a reticle onto this card here. Now that's got a bubble level on it. Make sure that that's level. And there's 2 different ways to be able to mount. You've got a barrel mount, which you can then drop this in here and use this screw to tighten it up. And that will allow you to put that onto the barrel of your rifle, or you have a Picatinny mount, and that will go onto a Picatinny rail when that might be viable. Lock that one down again, mount that piece into there. If we grab one of these, so we'll put this in here, clamp this up on the workstation. This barrel mount will have magnets there that you can adjust to be able to mount onto the barrel, but given we don't have a barrel on this particular gun, I'm going to swap it over and try out the Picatinny mount version. We've set up the chart back here. Now it does come with a little tripod, but because everything's sitting a bit higher, we've used one of our own. And we have the torch here projecting that reticle back through the scope onto the chart. Now we need to make sure that this is level, obviously that this is coming through correctly, and then we can level the reticle accordingly to do that. Now we will need to change some of the focus points on this particular scope to be able to get that nice and clear. So obviously, normally that'd be mounted onto the Picatinny mount or the barrel at the front there. So we'll just put a little bit of tension on that. That sits on top of the scope. You can see now our reticle is coming through here, right? Our gun is level. Obviously it would have a better mount on it when it's an actual gun, but our scope is way off, and we can see that here. And so we can bring that scope back to approximate level, and we could adjust the chart as we need to. Now the chart is not sitting level, so let's fix that up. That's why it's very important to have a bubble level on there. Get that one to where it needs to be, and you can see that we can then adjust that scope so that reticle is exactly level, like that. Then we would leave that on as we do that up to make sure it's maintaining where it's meant to be sitting. This light also will allow you to adjust the focal point by sliding back and forth and make sure you get a crisp image down the other end. One of the reasons that this is a really good way of doing it is because while you might be able to get your scope level, and often we've done that where we put the bubble level on there, which is good enough for in-store, but we'd always suggest to people to level it in the real world, is because the reticle inside the scope may not actually be level to the turret. And so being able to actually level out the reticle is more important than necessarily having level turret. Now there is actually a kit available that includes this setup, as well as the Smart-Torq wrench from Real Avid, and also the bore sighter, which is this one here, which will go onto the front of the barrel, and you can use that at the range, perhaps if you don't have the setup that you can do with this. There is a kit that has all of that in it as well. But for us in the store, this is a really good option for us to be able to mount that scope up and make sure it is level. The kit comes with a torch, it's rechargeable as well, and you've got your Picatinny mount that we've just used there, as well as your barrel mount, and your chart here as well with a smaller tripod, although if you're set up like we are, you may need that higher, or you could mount that onto the wall. Lots of options to use there. The Level Right Pro kit is going into the collection here. I'm going to move this aside, and we've got a few other little tools that are very useful. I'm going to grab out and show you. So one of the last additions to the bench is the Armorer's kit here. It's got a hammer which we'll go through, and then all the pin punches as well. But it also has this other cool little tool, which we'll talk about in a minute. That's the items out of the box. We have the Armorer's hammer. We'll go over that in a minute. That's the pin punch kit, which is a pretty normal set. This is an 11 set of pin punches. Now we also have the version that has the brass ones as well, and it's a larger kit as well. We don't use that many pin punches here. In fact, mostly the brass ones are the ones we do use. We've got an adequate set of those, but we do want to replace these ones here. So that's what these are achieving for us. And this last little one we will get to in a moment. So this hammer is quite versatile for a number of different things. So you've got your brass part back here, which is actually screw-on replaceable. So if you end up wearing that out, you can get others to replace that in. You also have different heads that will go in that place. So you've got like a very soft plastic and then a rubber coated one as well. So depending on the nature of what you are using it for and what you are hitting, those could be very useful to be able to change between the three. Very easy to do, and because they've got that onboard storage, you're not going to lose one. Now on the front here, you also have a rubber covered mallet, but then if you do take that off, you are straight down to the steel as well. So very versatile hammer, and I like the fact that it's all kept on board and you don't have to go looking for parts every time you want to use it. Now I've kept alluding to this little part here, and this is a pin punch starter. So you can put your pin into the appropriate size of the stainless steel holder here, put it into position and tap it on the end and actually get that pin started into position, which is so useful because so often you've got your fingers there and you're whacking away with a hammer and hoping for the best, and that often doesn't go well. You can also use one of these here if you need to hold that better in position. Now, one of the nice little well thought through things from Real Avid is that actually fits into the base of the hammer and becomes part of the same tool, so you don't have to remember where everything is again. So for us, in instances where we can't use the sight pusher and we do need to end up using a hammer, the ability to be able to adjust this hammer is going to be very, very useful. And the occasional time when we use the pin punches, these are a much nicer quality pin punch. You've got those 2 rubber stoppers on there as well with the details of the size on it. They are going to be much nicer to use than the cheapies that we were running before. All kept in a kit, all labelled really well. It's an excellent little option from Real Avid. Now, one thing when you are using this sort of setup is to actually have a base to be able to use so those pins don't go anywhere if you're knocking them out. We have such a beast to add into the collection as well. This is a Real Avid Smart Bench Block and is a really useful thing to have on the workbench when dealing with firearms. So let's get this one out of the packet because these Smart Bench Block type things are very useful. And this one's got a few features. So a bench block like this is really useful. It allows you to put a firearm down and be able to knock out pins and have them drop through. One, they get contained within, and two, you're not putting sort of unusual pressures and issues on the actual firearm itself. Unlike our previous one, this one here is rubberized around, so it's easier to grip onto, but it's also magnetic. So if you do have a pin, it's going to catch it and allow it not to sort of fall too far away, or if you punch them in, you can sort of rub that down and that'll pick up all the pins there. So you got 6 holes to choose from on the top. Now underneath it also has a 1911 barrel bushing wrench, which if that's something you use on a regular basis, it's a very comfy grip to use that. So the Smart Bench Block, particularly in combination with the Armorer's Hammer and the pinch punch kit, would make for a really good combination of tools on your gun bench. So while it's not something we use a huge amount, we do have a use from time to time for this sort of setup, so it is good to have decent tools to work with. These are some of the options from Real Avid for brushes and picks. It's 2 different kits. This one here, particularly if you are cleaning the gun and using the picks to sort of get in and try and tidy up as much as you can. You've got a couple of nylon brushes and a couple of bronze brushes, as well as your various picks. Now the set that we're going to be using here, because we often clean surfaces of guns to be able to mount Picatinny rails and such too, is these little smart brushes. So they have the bronze options there, and you've also got the nylon ones down the bottom, and you'll see on the end of each of them they sort of have like a bit of a pick or a little bit of sort of an intricate design that we can use to clean up some areas as well. So we're going to grab that set out and add it to our collection. So we end up in this set with 8 brushes, bronze versions, and then the exact same thing in the nylon versions as well. And so you'll see on these we have the rake style brushes, these sort of block style brushes, long skinny ones, and then also these sort of diamond style brushes. So just depending on the area you're trying to get into brush down, they are useful to use the most appropriate sized one and shaped one. More interestingly, on the back, you have a few different points. So if you are sort of scraping dirt and grit away, you have like a triangle point, this sort of blade here, and then a couple of sort of angled ones there, which would be useful for dovetails or anything on those lines to be able to clean through. So really useful for what we're doing here. Those little set will certainly find their use quite often, and they'll probably fit in our kit there as well. Now on these other ones here, the handles are actually sort of triangular. So they are a little bit larger. These are pretty flat to hold. These ones are a little bit larger and a little bit nicer to grip onto. So as a general use one, those ones are probably the pick of the bunch. Picks are very, very useful thing to have, particularly dealing with all sorts of guns, being able to get into magazines and into bolt faces and stuff to clean it out. But for our purposes here, these are a good combination for us, and I think they will serve us very well. So we have one more item we're going to put into use here. Now this is a little ball light, and ball lights are very, very useful things to have handy, and our old one, which is here somewhere, has lost its end to direct the light, and it has certainly seen better days. So this one here is again is a flexible version. Now this one here notably doesn't come with batteries. So when you get one, you will need a AAA battery and then it'll work. So you put this one down the bore of your gun and then you can turn it on and see it come through and come out, give you some light down the bore to be able to see. Now also on the back of it here has a magnet, and so that would stick onto your action, which certainly makes positioning it a lot easier. Now for us, this can be useful for mounting scope rings and things like that, to be able to sort of mount it up and get in and see what is going on in a given area. So more troubleshooting than anything else, but a great little add-on that we'll make good use of here in the shop, and sort of completes the whole Real Avid setup. Well, that is us done, guys. We now have a full Real Avid setup. Now, of course, we sell the gear, all right, but we are actually going to start using it in store. We're going to go through this bench. That is what I need to do now, and clear out a whole stack of stuff. But this is our new setup. We're going to start playing with us. So if you are in store or on the phone, ask us what we think of it, and we'll tell you, especially once we've used it for a couple of months. So check it out. It definitely looks like it's really good gear, and we're excited to try it out as well.